Hello and welcome to Certosa. We are fantastically locked down here in Italy, so we haven't been out and about as much as we'd like to over the past couple of weeks. So this is an episode with a difference. It is question and answer, Fair Isle style, which means we will have some pictures.
Yeah, we thought the combination of not being getting out much and my computer dying, which is making editing really difficult. We'll give ourselves an easier one. We don't normally put jump cuts in, but this episode might actually have some, I'm afraid. But we'll make it as pretty as we can, and we'll put some pictures on, and we'll answer as many questions as we can. We've got quite a lot of good questions from our patrons, actually, didn't we?
We have, right. The first question then, Jim Henshaw and others, I have to say, have asked Steve, I would love a list of tools you keep on board.
Yeah, it was one of Sam's questions as well.
Yes.
Sam and Sydney Lyles. We got sort of old questions from that. We got a whole ream from them. I mean, it's we can.
We'll come to the questions in a
We
minute.
thought this question and answer thing. Oh, we'll have that done in 10 minutes. It'll be early cocktail hour. But no, Sam came in. We're going to be here until it gets dark. Yes. So Sam and a few others want to know about tools. Let's have a little video. I'll show you a few of our tools. All my power tools are stored under there, but this is the one that you really need on a boat. It's a Fane multi-tool. There's lots of others available, of course, but this one's a good brand. Just vibrates. You can put blades on it, stuff for taking out caulking, whatever you want really, sanding, and it's just great because you can get into places with this where you can't with lots of other things. This is one of my many storage places for tools. I just take out a couple of ones that are a bit different and might be useful. Crow's foot spanners, getting those places that you can't normally get. You do obviously need, where is it, a crimper of some sort, so let's get that. But you just try and get a range of tools. These are really good. These spider's feet things for taking oil filters out. So I've got all sorts of different things in there. Some easy to get to tools then, obviously multimeter, your easy stitch, that's always a good thing to have on board. Different gas powered soldering irons, this and this one can be used for melting down the shrimp wrap things as well, and connectors. So yeah, quite a normal soldering iron. Oh, that's where my needles went. And I would say this is the main must-have tool which is missing from most boats. Hidden under here is where my vise lives. Got a couple of places I can mount it, but quite often it's just taken ashore. But obviously it's heavy, so it needs to be put away where it can't cause any harm. So one of Sam's things was, well, what do you keep on the boat and what do you have sort of elsewhere? Well, we don't. We are sailing around the world. Everything we take needs to be on this boat. So it's not sort of have some in a garage somewhere that for when you're doing a refit. Everything's got to come. So it needs a place. So we have a pilot berth, which is normally full of rubbish on top of it. It's difficult to get to. So that's one of our deep storage places. So all the stuff for when we're actually out of the water, so all the below the water stuff to do with anti-fouling and anodes and everything else lives in there because I don't need to get to that until we're out of the water. And there's a few other places where sort of deep storage things go. A lot of power tools are sort of wrapped up and they're in a little compartment right up forehead next to where our bow thruster is actually sort of buried in there because I don't need them that often. The rest you can see, the ones like this or on our engine room door. I've got the ones that I need to get to quickly. I mean, that's really important. You need to be able to do things quickly sometimes, and you just need a screwdriver or spanner or something. And so I've got a lot of easy access tools in the right place.
If budget was no consideration, what would you change about your boat? Would you upgrade, change things? What would we do?
I wouldn't change much, to be honest. Would you change much?
No.
No. People sort of say, "Would you want a catamaran?" No. I don't really like sailing catamarans. I don't know. We can't say forever. Maybe when we're on the other side of the world, on the Pacific, it'd be nice to have more room for families to come out and stay. It's just a space thing, really, isn't it? Everything else about this boat, perfect.
Okay, next one. Richard Hall, and I think it's Homero Levi de Barros. Apologies if I haven't pronounced that properly.
Great name.
Are you still happy with your True Kit?
We are, I think.
Yes,
really happy.
Fantastically.
It does what it says on the tin. It's light. It's really stable, but it's lasted. It's only been a year. Well, not a year yet. It's 10 months, but it's good as the day we bought it.
And easy to get into. I hate going into dinghies.
There's something about it, you're not very good at getting into
I don't like
dinghies.
it, but it's easy.
Having a stable dinghy is good. Yeah, I mean, look, it's what we need, because we want a dinghy that's light enough to just pull up, and we don't even use a halyard to get it up here, do we? We just pull it up with the painter, and we can just lift it over the guardrails and stick it on here. So really, really easy for us to do that. And now, with electric engine as well, because we can take that off first, obviously, and that's easy. We can hand it up. So, we've got a system for us here that's really easy. If we were somewhere on a coast that was really rough and we had to take a dinghy out into rough waters a lot, maybe it'll happen in the Pacific, but maybe not, because you're usually behind coral reefs and stuff, so it's not there. But if we had that, then I think I would go for something like an OC dinghy, which these carbon fibre jobs, which look fantastic. I've never seen one in real life, but they look bloody good in.
Yeah, they do.
But whatever. I mean, I think that might be difficult, because although it's light, it's carbon fibre, I think it'd still be much more difficult to store on here. So we're happy.
Yeah, we are. Okay, how do you keep veggies from going bad?
We haven't really had that problem, have we? We've got our our net, haven't we, that all the veggies go in.
At the moment, we haven't really been away from land so that we can't get to a shop for more than sort of a week or so.
Yeah.
So it's not really been an issue. I think when we go on longer passages, then it will be an issue. And the answer is, I don't know. We have got a freezer, which we don't use at the moment because we don't need to, obviously. But if we do go for longer passages, I think we would cook stuff and freeze it, definitely. Whether we
but fresh veggies is sort of the question. And yeah, I mean, I think it's not ultra humid here. Maybe we'll start getting those problems later on. But at the moment, yeah, we're absolutely fine with all that sort of stuff. It hasn't really been a problem at all. And Judy's a veggie, so she eats lots of veggies quick. So it's fine.
Yes, that's true. Next one is, how big is your oven, and do you use it very often? Yes, we do. How big is it? I don't know. It's big enough, yeah. Exactly.
It's a Force 10. It's it's sort of standard tray size.
So Steve's making a curry.
Yeah, lovely chicken curry. Always a good thing to have.
It's quite a good little cooker, that, isn't it?
Yeah, it could do with being slightly bigger, but can't have everything. You can get 3 pots on here, which is enough. Need to get rid of that. We don't keep any organic stuff on board when we're through. It's difficult sometimes to get 2 trays in, just height-wise, isn't it? And I mean, the things with these ovens is they're not, it's not like an oven you have in a house with a fan oven. So it's, you've got to keep turning things around, otherwise one end will cook and one end won't.
Yeah, that's a bit of a problem.
But they're pretty good. Force 10 are good, like our oven.
And as far as the menu, do you have a standard menu, or is it pretty random? It's pretty random, actually.
It's random. Well, it depends on where we are.
Yeah.
That's one of the good things about Europe, is you go from country to country and it's different food. You can only get different food. There's different specialities. So, we sort of go with what is there, really. And I think, you sort of eat differently in the heat. Well, we do anyway. It's sort of a lot more things like at the moment here in Italy, mozzarella cheese and tomatoes. You get lovely tomatoes, mozzarella cheese, bit of balsamic, bit of olive oil, job done. I mean, you eat what's around, really.
Yeah, exactly. We do eat, because I'm vegetarian, we do eat a lot of fish, because I do eat fish, and vegetables. And then Steve usually adds chicken, don't you? He fries some chicken sometimes and add it to a veggie curry or something like that.
Yeah.
But again, yes, we'll eat whatever's around, really, and what's there at the time.
Yep.
Same with wine. Again, we've been drinking local wine, haven't we? Pretty randomly.
Yeah. I mean, that's the other thing. You go from country to country. I mean, here in Italy, you won't really find much else other than Italian wine. They've got loads of Italian wine. And you've got to watch out. Italian wine, they love fizz. And you'll get a wine in a bottle that looks like a normal bottle. It hasn't got a special cork. And it just have in tiny words, frizzanti. And that's fizzy. And even with red,
yes,
we've been caught out. You buy a red and you wine that's fizzy. They love fizz. So yeah, I mean, we sort of try and have the local wines where we are, and I think. But Sam was talking about how much do we store as well. Well, it depends, doesn't it? If we can get somewhere with a cart, because it's heavy. We'll stock up. So we'll really try and sort of fill the bilges with wine and beer and the heavy stuff. Because if you've got to lug it with bags, it's a real pain. Here now we've got the dinghy and the motor. It's actually quite good because we can go right from the back of the boat over to the spa and fill up the dinghy. There's no actual carrying involved. It's really quite good. But you've got to take that into account if you're living on board. It's a lot of food. How these people that have 6 people on board?
Yes,
managed to
no,
do it,
that's a lot.
because getting the
Yeah.
food, on board is an issue. It really is. And, we don't eat a lot. And
when we're going to be provisioning to go on longer trips, we'll have to do it. We'll do it. I mean, as we do it, we will make an episode about how we did it. But I can't even get my head around a couple of months, never mind anything longer than that at this
No.
stage. People have asked, how do you provision for 9 months? I'm afraid the sad answer at the moment is I have no idea. How are we going to be travelling around?
Okay.
And when do we anticipate going to the Caribbean?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it is just speculation, isn't it? Because no one really knows. But it looks like in Europe, at least, there's going to be, I think worldwide, there's going to be a COVID passport type thing, which is why we're going back. Next week, we're going back to the UK to have our first jab, because we are now old enough to qualify in England, and we could do it moving on quite well. So we're getting it. So we'll go back, and that'll be one. We're going to have to do it again because they're 12 weeks apart. So we're going to have to stop somewhere in Croatia before we get to Greece, go back and have the second one, hopefully. And once that's done, I mean, that'll be middle of the summer. And I think places, Greece are already talking about it, saying that you're going to have a COVID jab to be allowed in, basically. Qantas are saying to fly with them. I think a lot of our airlines, certainly long haul, will be doing that. So yeah, I mean, I think it's get the jab, get whatever, hopefully that someone will jack up some sort of card that says it. Even we have it for yellow fever, things like that,
Exactly.
don't we?
We're quite used to travelling with a vaccination report for certain countries that we go to. So I think it'll just be added to that.
Yeah.
The problem, of course, is the different variants. Again, I don't know. Keep an eye on the news like we do.
Yeah.
I think as far as that's concerned, we're not really sure.
And you want to know Caribbean? Well, it might change, and COVID and Brexit for us might change that, because we were thinking of, to begin with, maybe spending 4 or 5 years in the Med, because there's a lot to explore here. It's lovely, sort of different cultures and diversity here. But now the whole of the Western Med is really quite difficult for us, because the same as Americans, Australians, New Zealand, whatever, you've got your 90 days in 180, and then you've got to get out of a Schengen country out and into one of the few non-Schengen countries, and there aren't enough of them in the Western Med. Here we're okay because we've got Croatia, we've got Montenegro, we've got Albania, we've got Turkey, but really even Gibraltar's staying Schengen, so it's Morocco really is the place to go, and you've got to go there and stay there for 3 months for the 90 days to reset. So it's difficult. I mean, I think it's easier, and actually now for Americans and for Australians to do to Europe than it is for Brits, because you've got some bilateral agreements with some countries. I know Italy has one with Australia. I don't know what ones Americans have. But yeah, it's a bit of a difficult one, a shuffle. But so yeah, we're going to be over in the Caribbean probably in a couple of years, maybe next year, maybe the year after, and then we'll go up and down the eastern seaboard of the States, and then go through Panama Canal and do the
So sooner than planned is the simple answer. But yeah, my father lives in New Jersey, so it'd be nice to go and see him.
Yes, we'll have probably a winter up at Chesapeake. I think it might be cold. I mean, we've had our cold winter this winter. We're saying, we're going to give ourselves some warm ones, Turkey next year. But I think a couple of years' time, once we've had too much heat of the Caribbean, the cold will be fine, I'm sure.
Okay. Yep. All right. Going back to the boat then. How long before you get new sails?
Well, we just had our Yankee fixed. We had, if you saw last year, we put a patch on a bit, which held it quite nicely, and so it's quite an easy job. But he had quite a look through it, and there's, in key spots, you'll get there's some wear. He said probably another couple of years out of that. The staysail much better condition. That actually last time we had something with that, Dad, he said it's good for another 6 to 10 years. That one.
I think we have sailed for a lot of years more.
Yeah.
Because the fabric looks very well.
Yeah.
There are a lot of kinds of darkroom, so it's important to buy a good quality, like Dimension Polian or Contender, or a brand with a lot of years in the market.
Yeah.
Because if you buy a Chinese sail, you don't know what is the material, and it's probably in 6 years it's out.
Mainsail's probably a couple of years. So yeah, I mean, in 2 or 3 years we'll be looking for a new suit of sails, I think.
And it'd be nice to get a a sort of a light wind sail,
It
wouldn't
would.
it? We haven't got one.
It would.
so-
It would be. That's not. Yeah. It's not for this year. Because somebody else asked. Who was it? It asked. What's the next big jobs? We've got that one.
Oh yes, that was Jason and Suzanne Crew.
Oh, Jason and Suzanne. Yeah, saying what are the next jobs? Well, that was sort of high on my list, but other things have overtaken it. The water maker has overtaken it. Now, to get a good one, they're quite expensive. It's sort of come
Yeah.
down to Spectra now and Schenker, both of which are expensive, but it's worth getting the right gear, I think. We've always looked for the right gear on Fair Isle. Don't just buy something cheap and then it lasts a couple of years and buy another thing. Get the right piece of kit, I think. So I'm really going to research that for next winter. Just for various reasons, money being one of them, but also getting bits in because of COVID and because it's not that easy in Venice. We haven't done the water maker this year, so the water maker is a big job that's coming up. Batteries are a big job that's coming up because our AGMs are on their last legs, and lithium is that's another thing that I will be really looking at for next year. But as I say, if I do it, I want to do it properly, and that's expensive. So see how the finances are next winter. If we can get both the water maker and the lithium battery bank done, that would be good.
Which actually brings me to another of Sam's questions, which is about sponsorship. What are we going to do about sponsors?
Getting sponsors. Yeah, we don't do sponsors in that way, do we? We don't want to be beholden to sponsors. So, we get deals on things, but it's with no strings attached. We will never have something on board, thinking that we've got to now give a good review for something. We're just not going to go down that line. So I don't really want to ever be sponsored by something.
Yeah.
Although, I don't know, I mean, Le Vagabond apparently are sponsored by Corona beer. Someone was saying the other day.
Well, if you like
I don't like Corona beer, so I wouldn't have that. But if someone was going to, ship me out some barrels of real ale from maybe maybe
Maybe
Fremlin.
you'd sell your soul for some real ale.
Yeah, maybe if Fremlin said, I'll just ship you out yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
We'd be sponsored by them, that'd be fine.
All right, good. I think you might need to cut at that point. Okay, right, I've got a very particular question from Tim Lamare. So, you anchor and the spot you want to visit to dive, swim or explore is 3 to 5 miles away through some current and chop. Will the electric motor be enough to get you there and back?
Well, I think we answered that in the because this was just before I put out that video for the new motor. But yes, I didn't think I thought the answer to that was going to be no, to be honest, because our other engines we've had, the Aquamot certainly wouldn't have done it. This will on one battery. Definitely. We worked out that actually we'd have enough to there's a distant island over here, Burano, which
we love.
Yeah, which, it takes us an hour in this boat to get there. You have to go a longer way. But we could get across to that and back with this engine because it can do, 15 miles really. I mean, if you went slowly, probably more. So its range is actually very good. But I know what he's saying is that, if you're battling against wind and tide and waves and stuff, then you haven't got a lot of guts. There's not a lot of torque there, although more than you think, because our equivalent two-stroke engine would go faster than this would. I could almost get it on I could once. I got it on the plane by lying down and steering with my feet on the tiller. I managed to
really did do that.
actually get it to plane. I couldn't do that with this engine, so it hasn't got that ultimate speed. But that's because you can over rev those two strokes. You can just get that extra bit of speed. But actually, this has got more torque. So I think battling through wind and waves, it's got just that power to get through. It's got enough, it's more than you would think for a equivalent 3 brake horsepower engine. I mean, they're not fast, but they'll get you places. It's fine. We're very happy with it. It's great.
Yeah, no, it's very good, because the other question from Tim Smith is, would you consider a Torpedo?
Well, no, I think, he said, did you consider it, didn't he? Did I look into them? I didn't look into them because at that stage, when I was first looking for electric motors, they had they're all gearbox motors. They were very late to the game, coming in with the brushless motors. And brushless motors are brilliant. I know that from drone technology. They're all brushless motors. Really, really good tech. And that's what Aquamot had in theirs, and that's what ePropulsion have. Now Torpedo have taken that up. I say late in the day they've gone to that. But yeah, I didn't originally have it because of the gearbox ones, and they whine. They make a horrible bloody noise, those gearboxes. Now they've got the new tech. They might be as good as the ePropulsion, but actually on paper, when you look through, they don't take as much charge from solar, things like that. They don't have the regen. They're more expensive, no, the promotion was definitely the one to go for me.
And Tim Smith also wants to know about editing, filming and editing. What setup do we have? Well, it's Adobe Premiere. It's the edit platform we use.
Well,
and it's expensive, but we get it because you get a student discount, and up until very recently I've been a PhD student, so I'm hoping, oh dear, we're going to broadcast this, but I'm hoping they'll notice when I stop being
the
a
Adobe
student.
Suite's quite good because the Photoshop's got lots of different things on it, so I think we'd have to pay for it no matter what if we'd stick with that now. And we need it because if we ever get to travel and go back in the winter to do a little bit of journalist training, I have to train on different platforms. So I can edit on lots of different platforms, but I like Premiere. It's a good one. So that's editing. Camera gear, we have quite a lot of different bits. We're filming this now on a C300, which we don't normally have on board. This is what we do a documentary filming with, and it normally lives at Judy's mum's house in Cambridge, and we fly from there to wherever. But I'm going to keep it on board from now, so because I've stripped it down. It used to have a sort of quite a big cage with a matte box and focus demand and lots of things on it. So now I've slimmed it down, and I'll try and do some filming because it's just a nice camera to use.
It is
on board.
But it's mostly GoPros now, isn't it?
Yeah.
And some people are using their phones as well. We use a bit we use the phone a bit, but the latest phones are great.
Hardly ever, yeah. But yeah, lots of GoPros.
I use my phone.
Let's have a little VT. I'll show you around. I'll show you the different cameras we have. So this is our main camera storage cupboard. Turn the light on in there. The big camera normally lives on here. This one lives on the chart table, but everything has to be bunged in. We've got lots of microphones, of course, as well. This is a lavalier type mic on there. Lights, so flat panel lights. Lots of different mounts, ways of putting cameras up. There's quite a lot of paraphernalia that goes with it. The edit station's in the forward cabin, and a bit of battery charging in here. And the smaller batteries are charged out here on the chart table, all velcroed on so they can't go anywhere. We have the couple of GoPros here on the mounts, and easy grab mounts as well. I'm just about to kit this out with some sponge to have one of the bigger cameras in here, so it's always at the ready. And this is something we got nearly the end of last year, GoPro Max, which is 360 one, so it gives you these sorts of shots. As well as the TrueKit question, Richard Hall was saying, what's your top tips as a sailing couple for not wanting to throw the other one overboard?
Oh, really?
And if you do have to throw them overboard, he then wants to know what our man overboard strategy is to get them back on.
Well, if you regret it, you mean?
You just leave them then, yeah. Right, man overboard strategy. We don't go for the sort of crash jibe or crash turn type thing, short-handed, all that. That's sort of what they teach you in IYA type stuff. I wouldn't do that. So yeah, I mean, we have a particular. We'll do a video on this, but we have a particular sequence of what gets thrown overboard, what button gets hit. If one person's over, but we don't do anything drastic to turn the boat. We will just stick it into the wind, lose the wind, gather your thoughts of what you're doing, get the right stuff overboard, which is our dam buoy, life buoy, depending on what's there. If we're towing the dinghy, then just let go the painter of the dinghy, because the person can swim to the dinghy, be in the dinghy. It's quite a good idea. Depends if you've got a life jacket on or not. As I say, we are going to do a safety video this year. I'm getting some new life jackets. We have some really nice life jackets, but I did want to get these ones that will flip you over onto your back if you're being towed, because one of the problems is if you fall overboard and you're tethered, a lot of people actually still come to grief because they just get towed by the boat, and short-handed, if you can't stop the boat, get them on board quickly, then you can drown really quickly with that happening. And yeah, we're going to try out this.
Unless you can flip onto your back.
Yeah, this new one, basically the harness comes off, clips around. Actually, I think it's got a release that you pull, and then it'll tow you backwards, basically, so you don't get towed face forward. So yeah, there's going to be things like that. Obviously, we have the Mob 1 AIS things on our life jackets, but that depends on you wearing a life jacket. So I'm also going to test out some Bluetooth wristbands. I've sort of shied away from them before because I think there was reports a lot of false alarms. Some of these ones might be better now, so I don't know, we might see about that. But yeah, I mean...
The false alarms are a problem. One of our life jackets has exploded downstairs.
It has, yeah. It just goes off.
No apparent reason.
They do sometimes, yeah.
Yeah. So better safe than sorry, I guess.
Yeah. So yeah, and what's the key to not wanting to throw someone overboard?
I don't know.
So Judy want me to throw overboard because she'd have to sail the boat herself then.
Exactly, I think that's probably it. Necessity and interdependent reliance on each other.
Tim had a couple of questions. He had another one. What's your worst sticky sailing situation?
Yeah, that's quite a difficult one.
Oh, there's been a few. So
I think one.
The only one that why we were actually doing the sailing channel was Biscay, wasn't it? There's been a few before that. But the
Yes,
Biscay one.
well, we had a storm there, but I wouldn't say that was a tricky thing. I think the tricky one was before we had the sailing channel, when it was at night. Do you remember? And we were going to
We were going from the Scilly Isles to the Channel Islands.
the Channel Islands, exactly. And it was at night, and so I was asleep and Steve was up on his own, and we had, stupidly as it turns out, we'd never do this again, left the sail poled out. And there was a tanker and they weren't answering. So in the end, you
it was
had
one
to
of those
wake
things.
me
So
up to come
yeah,
and do it.
yeah. I mean, lesson number one: don't be in a rush to get somewhere. We were getting to Jersey because Granny and Millie were both flying out there, so we were meeting them, and we were having such a nice time in the Scilly Isles. We stayed too long in the Scilly Isles, so we decided, because normally you'd go via Cornwall and go down and do it in a couple of days, and we just decided no, we're just going to go straight there. And you know, we had good weather at the beginning. We knew it was going to come up to a 5 or 6. It came up to an 8 by the end. We had at 4 in the morning. They were on, you know, saying severe gale force warning, and it really came in fast. And you know, everything happens at once when something like that happens. I was, you know, it was on the back quarter. I had a reefed foresail out, poled out, but that's not a problem because normally you can just put it away. But it jammed up. And with the pole out, it became more of a problem. Still not a big problem, because if I could have stayed on course, but there was it's the English Channel, loads and loads and loads of ships. And one ship I couldn't raise on the VHF, and you know, I was on a collision course for him. I had to go around behind him, so I had to jibe. So I had to wake Judy up, and you know, it wasn't a big deal, but you know, at the time, it gets the blood going.
Yeah, it did.
When in the middle of the night. Things at night, sailing at night, it's difficult. The only other thing I had at night, I sailed for charity round the British Isles years ago, and it was a time when AAS was just coming in, and we had one of the first AAS units available, and we had been beaten up in the Irish Sea for about 3 days, and coming into to Wales. Just, you know, I was completely knackered. I couldn't actually wake up. I did it with he's the presenter of news for BBC South East. So it was me and him on a 36-footer, and I couldn't wake him up. He had you know, gone for his 2 hours, and then he was out for the count. He had just basically collapsed. So I decided to go through this very small gap, which I wouldn't normally have done, but it was a foul tide if I'd gone all the way round coming out of the Bristol Channel. So I went through this little gap, and right in the middle of the night, massive ship, wasn't on AAS, and it's because it was a Navy ship, and you didn't realise at the time they don't put their AAS on. So yeah, that's a lesson learned.
Yeah, it is.
It helps to have a boat that really, you know, I mean, because the thing in Biscay, it was a Force 10 that came through, but actually we were quite comfortable, you know, in this boat. I mean, it was worse than it looked. It was episode 2, that one. It was worse than it looked because we actually lost a card.
Yes,
those tiny little SD cards that go in the GoPros. We did some filming at dawn coming in. We were surfing this boat, 26 tons, surfing into A Coruña, and that was quite hairy. And we did do, you know, a whole section of filming into there, and with the whole, you know, because you land in A Coruña and we were knackered, and it really strange thing that, you know, we got there, we thought, okay, we hadn't slept for days, we were going out for dinner, all of us, about 4 boats that managed to get in. And you remember, we walked around and we managed to get to a bar, and this was about 6 o'clock. But in Spain, nowhere serving food before 8 o'clock. I mean, those guys eat at midnight. It was our first taste of Spain. We got there and we could not eat. So yeah, none of us could stay awake, you know, long enough. So we just went back to the boat. Yeah, had some lasagna, went to sleep. But yeah, and then we left the next morning. And in the whole turmoil of everything there, we lost that tiny card. God, it never turned up.
No.
So yeah,
very annoying.
Shame to lose that footage. Yeah. Gary Schaefer, did you mention needing a new generator? Is that right? Why and when? Well, again, I think this needs a video really at some stage to really go through, and when I know more about it as well, because what we're trying to do is do without the generator.
Yeah.
Our generator's been trouble since day one. I've rebuilt it twice. I've had
For us, I mean, I have to say, we inherited a 15-year-old generator, so it might have worked once.
Well, no, it was the install. It was a bad install because the exhaust section is too long. It gets back pressure, and I think that's what's caused the problem. It's getting corrosion. The top end had corrosion. I had to rebuild the whole top end, new valves, new everything. It's been trouble since the beginning. So when it died this time, and I still don't know why it's died. I haven't done the complete autopsy on it yet. I've left it and said, okay, well, I'm going to try and do without it. We've put that extra bifacial panel on. We're going to need a bigger battery bank, but we've got the little Delta, Eco Delta thing, which there's going to be a test video coming out on soon. You've seen it in one of the episodes, but I'm going to have done a test on that as well. And that hopefully will help us through. But once we've got a proper lithium bank and enough solar, I think we can do without having a generator. I think the only reason you have to have a generator is if you wanted to run aircon, or if you wanted to cook completely on induction. Then you might need a generator. You're using so much, but even then, that sort of thing. If you're hooking up something that's got as big a draw as multi-hobbed induction heater, people think, oh, you just need a bigger lithium bank. You don't. You need everything that goes with that. You need to be your inverter to be able to take the current from your batteries, because you're talking huge amps when you're taking, if you're talking a 1 kilowatt draw, then that's 84 amps, 2 kilowatts, 160 amps you're talking about going from your batteries to your inverter. So you've got to make sure it can cope with that, which isn't an easy job. It's one of the reasons the little Delta's good, because it's a battery and inverter right next to each other. So, they're like that far apart. It's probably got a bus bar sort of between the two. It can cope with it. But yeah, I mean, we're never going to get our boat sort of up to spec for aircon or for induction. So, we don't really need the generator, I don't think, but we will see. Moving back to Sam's categories then, the boats category, I think we've done most of those. He's talking about the Wi-Fi. The Wi-Fi is great, I think. We haven't tested it properly because we've only been here since we've had it fitted. So, I don't know, we'll get the report on that. This SpaceX stuff might come sooner than you think. I've been talking to, there's a local guy here that is really into it and has been sending me lots of links. And people are getting it at home. It's cheaper than you think. It's about, I don't know, $60, $70 a month for the land-based ones. If they can get it on a boat, then that might take over. Who knows?
Getting local SIMs has been a bit difficult. We have a couple, but they don't always work, and we've had that in our Fair Isle system here.
Yeah.
So it's a bit hit and miss, to be honest.
Yeah.
Data is an ongoing problem, I think, probably for all sailing channels, because we use a lot of data.
Yeah.
It is an issue.
Yeah, and Wi-Fi in marinas is notoriously bad as well. It's usually there but slow. But we're getting quite good signal now. When it's there, it works quite well. Sam's also asking about the teak deck strategy. I actually need some Semco. I can't get it here, so that's part of my strategy. Is once a year Semco on teak decks is brilliant. I think it just saves it getting stained. You don't wash it as much, which means you're not brushing it. It doesn't wear as much. Just makes it look nicer. Semco's great. There is, I'll put a link to it, a video. You might not have seen that one, Sam. It was in one of the winter videos where I went through a whole load of stuff about varnishing and decks and all sorts of bits and pieces, because the thing that you're talking about with seams was in one of the episodes, so you might not have seen this one. Thoughts on anchoring setup now? Again, there will be an anchoring part 3 that's going to come up this year.
Oh, good. I mean,
you love those, don't you? No, we're really, really happy with our anchor, the Ultra anchor. Yeah, I mean, it's brilliant. We have 2 bow anchors, so we can do some sort of Bohemian type mooring with that. We can change things around. I would like to get an aluminium kedge anchor, a Fortress. Our anchor, we can take it in the dinghy and kedge it out, but it's heavy with a steel anchor. We're going to do probably this year quite a lot of stern line type stuff, because in Greece and Turkey and in Croatia actually, because we did it on the way up here, you get deep bays and you've got to get in close, but then you haven't got the swinging room, so you need to sort of back up to the shore and put some shore fasts on. So I've got the new Dyneema line on the back, as well as the other roll of line, and where my camera is at the moment is on this huge reel of road, which is what a lot of it's put there by the previous owner who did a lot of stuff in Norway and things. So that's,
We've never used it though, have we?
we've never had to. No. I mean, it's easier to use the webbing
Yeah.
off the back, and for the things that we're doing,
This
we
would
would.
give us more sunbathing space if we could get rid of that. Seriously, that's
Yeah.
it's an eyesore.
Yeah, well, if we're in a hurricane in Florida somewhere, or somewhere in the Caribbean, then
You think we might actually
we
need
might
it?
want that to tie us into the mangroves. But yeah,
Okay.
and as a tow rope, I mean, having a good length of warp is always good, and a good length of warp you have to have on a roll. Otherwise, if you try and put it away somewhere, when you want it, you will not be able to
That's
get
true.
it out. So,
Oh well.
sorry, not sunbathing space. Right, life. He's got a life category. May sound personal, but how often do you and Judy have a hot shower? I wonder what I was going to say then.
Well,
About once a day, as usual.
every day while we're here.
We have good water tanks.
Yeah.
I mean, in the summer we're swimming every day, and then so it's just sort of a wash off really. We should get some of that sea soap type
The
stuff
sea soap's
that you
very
can use in
useful.
the sea, and then it's even less of a rinse because we have got big tanks, but
In
you want
lockdown,
conserve
to be
it.
honest, it
We
was
haven't got a
not
water maker.
every day because we didn't have a water maker. We were going in.
Yeah.
That whole time we were going in to get water when we had to, so we did ration ourselves then.
Yeah.
And I can anticipate we might have to ration again, but yeah, mostly every day
Yeah.
as normal.
Yeah, that's not that's not a problem. Strategy for healthcare. Well, we're rubbish at that because up until now, EU, we had reciprocal healthcare. You see, you had a
Yes.
thing called an e-hit card, and that's gone. So we have got to sort that out.
Yeah, we have. Thanks for pointing that out. We're on it.
What's one thing you miss about land life?
Well, family.
Yeah, but that's not land life, is it? I mean, we're not missing the family because we're at sea.
That's true.
We could be somewhere else along
Do
the
you
land.
miss your
with it.
garden? You used to like gardening, didn't
I do.
you?
I do like gardening, but I don't miss it because I don't know. I'm like you. You sort of move from one thing to another. We focus.
Yeah.
I used to do a lot of gardening. I mean, it's difficult. I like to have. It's nice to have a sort of mindless job that you do before. So cutting the grass was it for me. You used to go out and spend a couple of hours cutting the grass, and whatever. Now it's sort of going out and cleaning the decks and looking after the teak. It's fine. You have different jobs that you do. Yeah, and I can't say that I desperately miss gardening. I don't.
Okay.
So,
So nothing then.
nothing.
I think that's pretty much where we are,
Yeah.
except that most people live on land.
What
it is-
but the other way around, what would you miss about the boat if you moved back to land? The travelling, the lifestyle, the whole thing.
Nothing though, because in the same way you'd have made that decision to move back to land.
That's true.
It's really difficult,
That's
but
true.
I think if you make the commitment to do what we did, which is to sell your house and move lock, stock and barrel onto a boat, you don't look back. You're
No.
not divided.
No, we're not. We're not. You're right. And if we moved off here tomorrow and bought a ski chalet, then I'd just be into skiing and doing that, and I'd be doing that, and I'd probably, I don't know if I'd miss
We'd
being on
watch
the boat.
YouTube channels about
Yeah, maybe.
sailing. Maybe. I don't know.
Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, it would be one or the other.
See this, you can definitely see that Sam's American. What's your favourite spirit? Bourbon, whiskey, etc. Bourbon, whiskey. We're British. Gin, gin and tonic for us. I mean, people might say rum, but that was the 16th century. If you've gone back to England in the 16th, 17th century, it would be rum. Now it's gin.
But we have got some rum.
We've got most things. We'll get some bourbon for when we come down to Florida, Sam. Don't worry. Don't even know what bourbon is. Is it a type of whiskey?
I think so. I have no idea. It's in the movies, isn't it? Bourbon.
Bourbon, yeah, it's in the movies, yeah.
You slip me a bottle of bourbon, a little glass, and some ice.
First of the day, fellas, to old D.H. Lawrence.
Want a drink? I never drink. No one in my family ever drinks. That's great. You probably never run out of ice your whole life. I don't drink because drinking affects your decision making. You may be right. I can't decide. It's just a little humour. Where Where's the rest of this moose?
So some of the I'm just going through the ones that we've missed in Sam's many categories. What do you find yourself happy coastal sailing? Or are you looking for deep blue crossings? We're happy. Oh, yeah, I mean, for me, it's not being at sea particularly. I mean, we both like being at sea. It's fine. But the beauty of sailing is sort of coming to new places.
Yeah,
really,
we'll
isn't it?
go on longer crossings to get somewhere. That's pretty much it, isn't it?
Yeah, I've never really understood people like the people that do the Golden Globe that will sail around the world in one go and never stop anywhere. And you think, well, you might as well go out in the middle of the Atlantic and go round and round in circles. Let's do that. I mean, I don't get that.
There's a bit more to it than that. But yes, I do see your point. Yeah, we are travelling to go to see places.
Yeah.
That's why we're doing it. And we're doing it on a boat because...
It's a really, really nice way to do it.
I think so. And it's slow and it doesn't involve so much air travel.
Well,
which,
and
frankly, is a good choice.
it's taking your home with you. There's a massive,
there is that.
massive difference between going somewhere as a tourist. I mean, even in our journalist days, going there working was better because you get this sort of you get an in with the people that you're going to. You're not just there as a tourist, so you'll go to meet different people and get a real sense of what something's like.
There. You
Who
have the
live there.
inside track.
You do. And the same happens with this. I mean, the Sailing Channel is very good for that because we come in a place like this, and I mean, immediately we were here. It's actually someone that ended up being someone who wanted to do the Golden Globe. He had entered the Golden Globe and couldn't later on, but he'd saw our boat, emailed us and said, "Oh, you're here, come to dinner." And that's only because he'd seen us online. He knew who we were, through the internet. So that's really good. It gives you an inside track. With local people, and we get the excuse of taking a camera and saying, "Can we come and film?" and being nosy about things, and you get the inside track. So that's really good for us. So I think we've just about done that. I might have missed one of Sam. Sorry, Sam. The one here from Matthew Owen Hankinson, I haven't done that one. Was talking about the Hans Christians. He likes the Hans Christian and was saying, are some of the older models of the 48, what are they like for longevity and things? Well, look, it's a really, really solid boat. The bones of this boat are just, really good. He was talking about osmosis. Well, osmosis has never sunk a boat. It's a pain in the arse because it's a lot of grinding and, effort to get back. But if you're talking about, a pretty old boat, I mean, they haven't got a bad reputation. They're not worse than any other boat of that sort of era. So it might have had osmosis, but it's more likely if you've got a 40-year-old boat to have had it and been fixed, to be honest. And nowadays you've got better gel coats that protect it better. I mean, this was coated in vinyl ester when it was from new, so we haven't had a single blister on this. It's been absolutely perfect. So it's very lucky. But yeah, a boat like this, the only problems, boats with teak decks, you've got to look at that the deck is still sound, that you haven't got any problems with ingress of water. There's not, most of it's solid though, there's not a lot of it that's cooled.
When we were looking, we originally were thinking a smaller boat, and that would have been absolutely fine had we found a nice smaller boat, because they're quite chunky inside, so I don't think you feel claustrophobic or anything like that. That was my concern. But actually the 48 suits us fine.
Yeah, well the 33 even is huge inside. It's like a TARDIS.
Yes.
The reason I wouldn't have ever gone down to a 33 is that, it's all a compromise, but the compromise you've got here with a boat like a Hans Christian is that it's 26 tonnes, so it's that's going to be slow because it's,
Yes.
we've got a big sail area, so it's not that slow. It's not as slow as you'd think. But one of the reasons it's still good, we can cruise at 7 or 8 knots, is that it's got waterline length. If you go down to a 33, then you've got the weight and you haven't got the waterline length, and that will probably make it a little bit too slow, even for us. So I wouldn't have gone down to a 33. I mean, we were looking at 41s and 43s, Hans Christians at the start, and I think that'd be great. They'd be absolutely fine. It's nice to have the centre cockpit with the stateroom at the back. Just living wise, you've got sort of two properly separate areas, and that's nice, even apart from the space.
But it's not essential, so I think
essential.
it is that comes down to a matter of taste, I think.
Yeah. And someone also asked,
Farrell was lovely.
I haven't seen the question here, but I know that someone was asking about other boats of this type. If you didn't go for a Hans Christian, what would you go for? Well, there's a whole list, so these are some of the ones that I might have gone for. The evolution for us was was looking at a wide range of boats at the beginning. When we looked at wooden boats and steel boats and all sorts, and we honed it right down to to know I want a long-keeled, keel-hung rudder, this sort of boat, and Hans Christian were at the top of that list for me. So we looked at quite a few Hans Christians in the end, and we looked at about 5.
And in fact, this one was one we weren't even going to look at.
No.
It's
too expensive.
Too expensive, exactly.
We went to look at a 41, and this was in the same yard in De Volks in Holland,
yeah.
and it was brilliant actually. I mean, they were great there, and we actually spent the winter there because we couldn't leave because they dropped the level of water in the Markermeer, which is just outside of Amsterdam, to protect Amsterdam. So we were on the bottom with our 2-metre draft. So we had to wait until summer, which was fine. So we did a nice refit there. But the harbour master there, he was funny. He just came in one day. He was bringing in a boat that they were delivering. It was a Beneteau or a Genoa or something. It's a production boat. And he came and he looked at it and he said, it's such a good boat. He said, I slept in the aft cabin of that boat yesterday, and the hull is so thin, I knew when the sun had come up. He said, you wouldn't know in this boat. And you won't. I mean, it's sort of, yeah.
And the answer to last episode's quiz is Radicchio di Treviso. Lots of people got it right, but the quickest 2 were Kathleen Brown from the Patrons and Marcus in the comments. So that's our quick canter through the questions and answers that we have at the moment. The other pictures we've got are of spring. We were going to do another episode until we got locked down, so here's lots of lovely pictures of spring in Italy. Spring has sprung.
Spring has sprung, and hopefully by the time we come back, it'll be almost summer and we'll be cruising. So keep watching for that.
Yeah, thank you very much. And thank you to our patrons for those questions. Thank you to our subscribers, and thank you for watching.